Imagine waking up to a world where you're no longer chasing, begging, or waiting for scraps of attention. You move through life with unshakable confidence, like the sun, warm, steady, and impossible to ignore. People are drawn to you effortlessly. They dream about you, fear losing you, and feel grateful just to exist in your orbit. And here's the kicker. You're not even trying. When you walk into a room, heads turn, conversations shift, and the air thickens with curiosity. It's not something you force, it's just who you are. You've become the one they can't stop thinking about, the one they regret letting slip away, the one they wish they could keep. Sound too good to be true? It's not. This life is real, but it only begins when you stop chasing people who don't see your worth. Here's the hard truth. The more you beg for attention, the less they value you. The more you sacrifice your dignity, the more invisible you become. If you're sitting there right now, glued to your phone, waiting for a reply that never comes, you're stuck in a losing game. The harshest reality. They're not thinking about you. You've handed them everything on a silver platter, your time, your energy, your respect, and left nothing for yourself. It's time to wake up. You've been living in a lie where effort equals love, but love doesn't work that way. Love comes from mutual respect, from boundaries, from knowing your own value. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength begins the moment you stop giving yourself away to people who haven't earned you. Think about this. If something is always available, it becomes ordinary. The air you breathe, you don't notice it, but the moment it's gone, you panic, realizing how much you needed it all along. You need to become that irreplaceable presence, not by playing games, but by shifting the focus back to yourself. The second you stop chasing is the moment they feel your absence. And that absence is louder than any words you could ever say. Stop for a second and be honest with yourself. How many times have you bent over backward to fit into someone else's story? How often have you begged for their attention, only to be met with silence? Enough is enough. You are not here to audition for someone else's life. You are the main character in your own story, and it's time to act like it. From this moment forward, things change. You stop being the one who always reaches out first. You stop rearranging your life for people who wouldn't even take a step for you. You don't need to announce it, explain it, or justify it. You simply pull back, reclaiming your energy. Slowly but surely, they'll notice the shift. They'll wonder what's different, why they suddenly feel the void you left behind, and when they realize what they've lost, they'll chase what they once took for granted. But let me be clear, this isn't about making them miss you. This is about taking back your power. You're not punishing anyone or playing hard to get. You're simply stepping into the person you were always meant to be, declaring to the world and to yourself that you matter. You're done shrinking, done begging, and done waiting for someone to notice your worth. Now here's your challenge. Write in the comments below, "I know my worth." Let this moment be your turning point. If you found value in this, make sure to hit that like button to show your support. And don't forget to subscribe for more life-changing insights. Tap the bell icon so you never miss a moment of wisdom. And if you're truly ready to turn your life around, share this message with someone who needs to hear it. The magic is already inside you, but it's up to you to unlock it. By the end of this message, you'll see how this one shift can make them miss you instantly, but more importantly, how it makes you unstoppable. So stay until the end, because I'll share the single most powerful move you can make that will flip the script entirely. You won't want to miss it. This is your time, your moment. Take back what's yours. Detaching feels like standing at the edge of a cliff, doesn't it? Like you're about to let go of something you poured your heart into, something you fought to keep alive. It's terrifying. But here's the truth. Detachment isn't about walking away or pretending you don't care. It's about creating boundaries that protect your peace and reclaiming the emotional space that's been taken from you. Right now, you've been giving too much of yourself. Every reaction, every ounce of energy, every second you've spent waiting for their response is a piece of your power handed over. It's like holding out your heart on a silver platter, hoping they'll finally see its worth. But people don't treasure what they get too easily. They take it for granted. The moment you stop reacting to their actions, they'll feel it. That's the shift. Imagine a musician strumming a guitar string too hard. Eventually, it snaps. But when the string is tuned just right, it creates a melody they can't resist. That's what you're doing. Tuning your energy, pulling back, and letting the space speak louder than your words ever could. Think about this. When was the last time you poured as much energy into yourself as you have into them? Have you forgotten what it feels like to invest in your own growth? Redirect that energy. Start something new, a project, a goal, a dream you've been putting off. Focus on building the version of you that doesn't need validation from anyone else. As you do, they'll notice. They'll see that you're no longer orbiting around them, and that absence will create a gravity of its own, pulling them toward you. It's not about ghosting them or playing games. It's about making space for them to realize what life feels like without your constant presence. Imagine this. You're always the one who texts first, plans every meeting, and puts in all the effort. What happens when you stop? At first they might not notice, but soon they'll feel the void. The silence will grow louder, the absence sharper. They'll wonder what changed, why you're no longer available at their beck and call. Here's a truth many won't tell you. People value what they have to work for. The more you chase, the more they run. But when you stand still, when you reclaim your space, they start to move toward you. It's human nature. As the Stoics understood, power lies in control. Control over yourself, your reactions, and your energy. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. They'll feel the shift when you step back. It'll confuse them at first. They're used to you being there, always available, always reacting. Now you've changed the script. But here's the key. This isn't about making them miss you. It's about rediscovering your own worth. If they come back, it's because they see the value they once overlooked. And if they don't, they were never meant to stay. At this point, you might be wondering, but what if they never notice? What if I lose them for good? Let me ask you this. If someone only stays when you sacrifice your dignity, are they really worth having? Detachment isn't about losing someone else. It's about finding yourself. Think of a flame. If you hold your hand too close, you get burned. But if you step back just enough, you feel its warmth without the pain. That's what this process is. You're creating the space to be appreciated, not overwhelmed. And in that space, something magical happens. They feel the difference, and they're drawn to it. But don't get it twisted. This isn't about manipulation. It's about reclaiming what's always been yours. Your peace, your energy, your power. You're not playing a game. You're writing a new story where you decide how you're treated and valued. This journey won't feel comfortable at first. Detachment rarely does. But the discomfort is temporary, and the transformation is permanent. You are no longer begging for anyone to see your worth. From now on, they have to rise to meet you. Your worth has always been there. The only question now is whether they're ready to see it. And if they're not, it's their loss, not yours. You are not a pebble, you are a diamond. Let me tell you something about value. If diamonds were lying around everywhere, they'd lose their sparkle. No one would care to stop and admire them because they'd be as common as pebbles. And that's the truth about relationships too. When you're always available, always giving, always showing up, you stop feeling special to them. You become predictable, ordinary. But here's where it changes. You don't have to stay a pebble. You can become a diamond again. Right now, you're pouring out your energy like water, endless and overflowing, and they're just soaking it up without even realizing how precious it is. It's time to stop. Scarcity is your secret weapon. When something becomes rare, people notice. It creates a hunger, a longing, a desire to hold on tighter because they know it's not easy to replace. And you are rare. You just forgot that somewhere along the way. Maybe you're afraid that pulling back will push them away, but here's the truth. If someone drifts away because you stopped overextending yourself, they were never truly invested in you. The people who care will feel your absence like a sudden chill in the air. They'll start asking questions. Why aren't you texting first? Why aren't you always there anymore? That curiosity, that mystery, it pulls them in. People crave what they don't fully understand. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." And isn't that what you've been doing? Placing your worth in their hands, hoping they'll see it, begging for their attention. But no more. Your value doesn't depend on how often you're available to someone. Your worth is rooted in the rarity of what you bring to the table. Think about this. If you constantly give them everything, there's nothing left for them to chase, no reason for them to put in any effort. It's like reading a book where all the secrets are revealed on the first page. What's left to keep them hooked? But when you hold back, when you make your time and energy something they have to earn, it flips the script. You're no longer the one chasing. You become the one being chased. Let me make it clear. This isn't about ghosting them or playing games. It's about creating space. Space for them to realize what life feels like without your constant presence. And when they do, they'll start to feel it. That space isn't empty. It's filled with the realization of what they took for granted. It's like standing in a room that suddenly goes silent. You notice it because it's unsettling. It feels like something important is missing. Yes, at first, pulling back will feel unnatural. You'll wonder if you're being cruel or distant. Your mind will try to convince you that if you don't keep giving, they'll leave. But the truth is, you're not being unkind. You're being wise. You're protecting your energy, your peace, your dignity. If someone can't handle that, then let them walk. You're not here to beg for scraps of attention. You are a diamond, and not everyone deserves to hold something so precious. What happens when you become rare? Everything changes. Suddenly, every text, every conversation, every moment with you becomes something they cherish. They'll notice that your presence isn't guaranteed. It's a privilege. And that's when you stop being an afterthought and become their priority. This isn't about manipulation. It's about self-respect. When you stop being the one who gives endlessly, they'll have no choice but to step up if they truly value you. And if they don't, then their place in your life was never meant to be permanent. Either way, you win. You're not common. You're not disposable. You're not someone who waits around hoping to be noticed. You are rare, and the moment you start living like it, the world and they will take notice. Keep your head high, your energy guarded, and your worth undeniable. Trust me, they'll feel the shift. They always do. Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. In a world where everyone fights to be heard, silence is a weapon few know how to wield. It's not weakness, it's power. Think about it. The loudest noise in a room can lose its impact, but silence is haunting. It's the pause that makes the uncomfortable, the absence that demands attention. It forces people to reflect, to question, and to face their own thoughts. Right now, you might feel the need to explain yourself, to defend your position, or to react when someone crosses a line. But every time you react emotionally, you give them control. You're handing them your power on a silver platter. The moment you stop reacting, however, the script flips. They're no longer controlling the dynamic. They're left in confusion, wondering what's going on in your mind. Imagine this. Someone pushes your buttons, expecting you to snap back. They're waiting for your anger, your frustration, your desperate need to set things right. Instead, you remain calm, unshaken, untouched. That silence doesn't just confuse them, it unsettles them. They don't know where you stand, and that lack of clarity makes them chase answers. Suddenly, they're the ones searching for your attention, not the other way around. Silence is a source of great strength, as Lao Tzu once said, and he wasn't wrong. Silence isn't about retreating or running away. It's about standing your ground with such calm confidence that it speaks volumes without a single word. It's a statement. I'm not here to play your games. When you stop explaining yourself, you break their hold over you. Their opinions, their judgments, their attempts to provoke you, all of it falls flat. They're left with the weight of their own actions. Silence forces them to sit with the discomfort they tried to project onto you. That's where your power lies, not in reacting, but in controlling the narrative by refusing to engage. Here's a metaphor to chew on. Silence is like a mirror. When you stay silent, you're reflecting their behavior back at them. They're forced to see themselves in a way they never expected. If they've been unfair, they'll feel it. If they've disrespected you, it'll echo back to them louder than your words ever could. And that reflection? It's impossible to ignore. You might wonder, what if they think I don't care? What if my silence pushes them further away? But here's the reality. If your silence makes them walk away, they were never truly invested in the first place. And if they stay, if they start to crave your presence and work to earn your attention, that's when you know the dynamic has shifted. This isn't about being cold or distant. It's about reclaiming your peace. You're not punishing anyone. You're prioritizing yourself. Silence isn't about closing doors. It's about opening space for respect to grow. And in that space, something magical happens. They start to see you differently. They begin to realize that your attention was never a given, but a privilege. Think of it like this. A storm loses its power when it meets the calm of the ocean. Be that ocean. Let their chaos crash against your stillness without moving you. When they see they can't rattle you, they'll be forced to adjust. They'll start to value your energy because they'll realize how rare it is to find someone who doesn't react, who doesn't break under pressure. Silence creates mystery, and mystery is magnetic. People are drawn to what they can't figure out, to what they don't fully understand. When you become that person who doesn't react to every slight or explain every move, you become someone they can't stop thinking about. The beauty of silence is that it leaves them with questions, and those questions pull them toward you. It's not about playing games. It's about standing in your own power. You're showing them that your worth isn't tied to their opinions, that their actions can't dictate your peace. So take a breath. Let their words and actions fall away. You're not here to prove anything to anyone. You're here to reclaim your story. And when you embrace silence, they'll feel the shift. They always do. Your peace is your power. Your mind is your sanctuary. Your heart, a fortress. Not everyone deserves access to that sacred space. Think about it. If you leave the gates of a fortress wide open, anyone can walk in. Some may bring gifts, but others will bring chaos. And when you allow the wrong people inside, it's no wonder you feel drained, disconnected, and overwhelmed. Your inner world is a treasure, but too often you give away pieces of it freely, hoping to build deeper connections. Vulnerability can be beautiful, but only when shared with those who value it. The harsh truth is, not everyone does. Some people will take your openness for granted, treating your thoughts and emotions like a resource they can tap into whenever they want. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength lies in protecting your peace, setting boundaries, and learning to say no when your heart says yes out of guilt. Boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. They keep the negativity out while allowing the good to flow in. And when you enforce those boundaries, something remarkable happens. You regain control over your energy. Imagine your peace as a crystal-clear lake. When you allow everyone to throw their rocks into it, their negativity, their demands, their opinions, it becomes murky, unrecognizable. But when you stop letting everyone have access, the water clears, reflecting the person you truly are. That clarity, that's your strength. You might wonder, but isn't it selfish to set boundaries? Won't people think I'm pushing them away? No. Protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's survival. If you don't prioritize your well-being, who will? People who truly care about you will respect your boundaries because they'll see them for what they are, a way to preserve your energy and protect your inner world. And those who don't, they'll show themselves for who they really are. When you learn to guard your emotional space, you become magnetic. There's a quiet strength in someone who isn't easily rattled, who doesn't give their energy away recklessly. Think of a lighthouse standing firm amidst the storm, its light unwavering. That's what happens when you protect your peace. People are drawn to it, not because you're available to everyone, but because your energy feels rare, valuable, and grounded. But here's the catch. This won't be easy at first. You're used to being available, to saying yes, even when your soul is screaming no. You've been conditioned to believe that being there for others at all costs makes you kind, loyal, and good. But ask yourself this: how can you pour into others when your own cup is empty? The truth is, you can't. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you're saying no to yourself. When you start protecting your peace, the wrong people will fade away. They'll leave because they were only there to take, and they'll resent you for setting boundaries. Let them go. Their absence isn't a loss, it's a gift. It creates space for growth, healing, and connection with those who truly value you, and the right people. They'll rise to meet you. They'll see your boundaries not as obstacles, but as proof that you know your worth. They'll cherish your time, your energy, and your presence, because they'll understand that it's not freely given, it's earned. Think of yourself as a rare gem locked away in a glass case. Everyone can admire it, but only those who appreciate its value get to hold it. You don't need to announce your worth. Your actions will say it for you. When you live by your boundaries, people will notice, and those who don't respect them, they'll regret it. But by then, it'll be too late. Your peace isn't negotiable. It's your foundation, your power, and your gift to yourself. Guard it fiercely. Trust me, they'll notice the change. They always do. Disrupt their comfort zone. People thrive on patterns. They love to know what's coming next, to predict how you'll respond, and to assume you'll always stay the same. Comfort feeds their complacency. The more predictable you are, the less they notice you. They stop appreciating you because they assume you'll always be there, always available, always bending to their expectations. But here's where the real power lies. When you disrupt those patterns, everything changes. Think of a familiar song on repeat. After a while, you stop hearing it. It blends into the background, unnoticed. But if the music suddenly stops or skips, you perk up. You notice the change. That's what happens when you break their patterns. You force them to pay attention, to rethink their assumptions, and to see you in a completely different light. Right now, they've created a mental map of who you are and how you behave. Maybe you're always the one to text first, to apologize, or to make the plans. They've grown comfortable with the rhythm, assuming you'll keep playing your part. But what happens when you step out of character? When you stop being the first to reach out? When you take longer to respond? When you say no instead of yes? That small disruption creates a ripple effect. When their expectations are broken, they feel it like a jolt. Suddenly, you're no longer the person they thought they knew. That unfamiliarity makes them curious. They'll start asking themselves, why are they acting differently? What changed? Did I do something wrong? And in that space of uncertainty, they begin to crave your attention in a way they never did before. This isn't about playing games or being difficult for the sake of it. It's about showing them that you won't live your life by their script. It's about reminding them that your presence is a choice, not a guarantee. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." By shifting your actions, you shift how they perceive you. You're no longer predictable, and that unpredictability makes you magnetic. You might worry, what if they don't notice? What if they walk away? But the reality is simple. If someone doesn't notice your worth, once you stop chasing them, they never truly saw it to begin with. Breaking their patterns isn't about losing them. It's about finding yourself. It's about reclaiming control over how you show up in their life and deciding whether they've earned a place in yours. Imagine this. You're always the one to reach out first. You set the tone for the relationship, always being the giver, always being available. But one day, you stop. You pull back, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. At first, they might not react, but slowly they'll notice the absence. The silence will make them question everything they thought they knew about you. That's the power of breaking their patterns. It creates a gap they didn't expect, and that gap makes them reevaluate their place in your life. Breaking their patterns puts the pen back in your hand. You're no longer following a script written by their assumptions. You're writing your own story, one where your worth isn't tied to their expectations. When you stop being predictable, you become a mystery, and mystery creates desire. Think of it like a locked door in a familiar house. Everyone knows what's behind the open doors. They've walked through them 100 times. But a locked door, that's where the intrigue lies. They can't help but wonder what's behind it. This shift doesn't require grand gestures. It's not about cutting them off or being distant for no reason. It's about subtle changes that make a big impact. Stop over-explaining. Pause before reacting. Hold your ground when they expect you to fold. These small disruptions send a powerful message. I'm not who you assumed I was. I am more. And here's the truth. The people who value you will adapt to these changes. They'll rise to meet you, understanding that your time and energy aren't endless resources. Those who don't, they'll fall away, leaving room for better connections. Breaking their patterns isn't about proving anything to them. It's about proving to yourself that you don't need their validation to feel whole. When you disrupt their comfort zone, you take back your power. Trust me, they'll notice. They always do. Hold up the mirror. People rarely realize the weight of their actions until they're standing in their own shadow. They grow accustomed to your kindness, your effort, and your presence as if it's infinite, as if it's owed. They take it all for granted because they've never stopped to imagine what life would feel like without it. But here's the secret. When you mirror their actions back to them, you create that moment of realization. It's quiet, it's sharp, and it's unforgettable. If they act distant, meet them with distance. If they're inconsistent, match their inconsistency, not out of bitterness or revenge, but to let them see, feel, and experience the very energy they've been giving you. It's a reflection, not a retaliation. And that reflection is more powerful than any words you could ever say. Imagine someone tossing a ball against a wall. Every time it comes right back, just as expected. But what happens when the wall doesn't bounce it back? What happens when the ball just falls flat? That's what mirroring their actions does. It disrupts their expectations and forces them to confront their own behavior. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Sometimes the loudest truths are revealed without a single word. By mirroring their actions, you're showing them a truth they've avoided, the impact of how they've treated you. You don't need to explain it, they'll feel it. You might wonder, won't they think I don't care? Won't they walk away? The answer is simple. If someone walks away because you stopped overextending yourself, then they were never truly there for you. Mirroring isn't about pushing them out, it's about restoring balance. Relationships are a two-way street, and if someone isn't willing to meet you halfway, then letting them go creates space for someone who will. Think about this. When someone offers you minimal effort, it's easy to fall into the trap of giving more, hoping they'll notice, hoping they'll change. But the harder you try, the more they pull back, because they've come to expect your effort as a given. When you mirror their effort instead, you stop chasing. You put the ball in their court. If they want more, they'll have to work for it. It's not about being cold, it's about teaching them the value of what they've taken for granted. If they've been distant, they'll feel what it's like to be met with the same distance. If they've been inconsistent, they'll experience that inconsistency from the other side. And when they feel that absence, when they sense that shift, it forces them to reconsider their own behavior. Silence becomes your ally here. You don't need to argue, explain, or defend yourself. Your actions, or lack thereof, will say everything for you. That silence creates discomfort, and discomfort drives introspection. They'll start asking themselves, why aren't they reacting? Why aren't they trying anymore? And that's when the real shift begins. Picture a tightrope walker who's always had someone below with a safety net. They take risks because they know they're safe. But when the net is gone, every step feels different. They suddenly realize how much they depended on it. That's what happens when you stop cushioning their behavior. This isn't about manipulation, it's about clarity. It's about showing them that your kindness, your care, and your attention were never obligations. They were gifts, gifts they should have valued. And if they can't see that, then their loss is not your burden to carry. When you mirror their actions, two things happen. The right people will notice and adjust, and the wrong ones will fade away. Either way, you win. You're standing in your worth, refusing to settle for less than you deserve. And trust me, they'll notice. They always do. Stop carrying the weight for them. Here's the simple truth. People don't value what's handed to them. They value what they work for. When someone invests time, effort, or energy into something, it becomes important to them. It holds meaning. But if you're the one constantly making plans, solving problems, and pouring yourself into the relationship, you've made things too easy for them. And what's easy to get is easy to take for granted. Think about it. If you give someone a treasure they didn't have to search for, they won't appreciate its worth. But if they had to dig, struggle, and sweat to find it, that treasure becomes priceless. It's not because the treasure changed, it's because they put effort into earning it. This is exactly how human psychology works. Effort creates value. Right now, you might be carrying the entire weight of your connection, thinking that if you give more, they'll care more. But the opposite happens. When you do all the work, they get comfortable. They stop noticing the sacrifices you make or the energy you give, and slowly, without even realizing it, you've trained them to expect your effort without having to match it. So how do you change this? you step back. You inspire effort by creating space for them to step forward. You stop texting first every time. You stop bending over backward to keep things running, and you let them take responsibility for their part in the relationship. It's not about playing games. It's about restoring balance. Imagine carrying a heavy bag up a hill while someone walks beside you, empty-handed. You're sweating, struggling, and doing all the work. But what happens if you stop and put the bag down? Either they'll pick it up and help you, or they'll walk away. And if they walk away, they were never meant to walk with you in the first place. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you shift your energy and stop giving endlessly, you change how they perceive you. You stop being someone they assume will always be there, and you become someone they want to keep in their life. You might be wondering, but won't stepping back make them think I don't care? Won't they leave if I stop trying? The answer is simple. If someone values you, they'll step up. They'll notice the space you've created and work to fill it. And if they don't, then their place in your life was never meant to be permanent. Either way, you win. Because you deserve relationships where effort flows both ways. This isn't about demanding grand gestures or manipulating anyone. It's about holding your ground and recognizing that your time, energy, and care are not infinite resources. You're not a never-ending fountain of support and attention. You're a person who deserves the same effort you give. When you pull back, it creates a powerful shift. Suddenly, your attention isn't guaranteed, it's earned. They'll start to realize how much they took for granted, and they'll begin to invest. And as they put in effort, their connection to you deepens. That's the beauty of mutual investment. It strengthens bonds, builds respect, and transforms how people see you. Think of it like a plant. If you water it every single day, it might thrive, but it won't grow stronger roots. But if you water it just enough, it learns to dig deep into the soil to find what it needs. Relationships are the same. When you stop overwatering, you give them a chance to grow, to show their effort, and to meet you where you are. It might feel uncomfortable at first. If you're used to giving everything, stepping back will feel unnatural. But remember, this isn't selfish. It's necessary. You're not asking for more than you deserve. You're creating space for them to show they care, to prove they want to be in your life for the right reasons. When you make them earn your time and energy, two things happen. The right people will rise to the challenge, and the wrong ones will fade away. Either way, you're left with relationships built on respect, effort, and mutual value. Trust me, they'll notice. They always do. Take back the pen. It's your story. Here's the truth. You are not a supporting character in someone else's life. You are the hero of your own story, and it's time you start living like it. Too often we give other people the central role in our lives, hoping they'll notice us, value us, or validate us. But the moment you hand someone that power, you lose control of your own life. Your transformation begins the second you reclaim that power. Your happiness, your worth, and your future are not in their hands, they are in yours. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And the moment you stop waiting for someone else to validate your value, everything changes. You don't need anyone's approval. It's not theirs to give. The only person you need to convince is yourself. You are already enough, just as you are. The more you live for yourself, the more magnetic you become. People are naturally drawn to those who know who they are and where they're going. That kind of energy doesn't chase, it attracts. Think of it like this. If you were the protagonist of a book, would you want the story to be about chasing someone who doesn't appreciate you? Or would you want it to be about someone who rises, who grows, who claims their space in the world unapologetically? You are that protagonist, and the pen is in your hand. Stop handing it to others who don't deserve to write your story. This doesn't mean you won't have relationships. It means your relationships will no longer define you. They will be built on mutual respect, not need. You're not here to beg for love or attention. You're here to build a life so rich and full that others want to be part of it. And those who truly value you will rise to meet you. You might be asking yourself, but if I stop trying, won't I push them away? Here's the truth. Anyone who leaves because you started valuing yourself wasn't meant to stay. And anyone who stays, they'll appreciate you in a way they never did before. Either way, you win. Picture this. You're the sun, steady and radiant. The planets orbit around you, drawn to your light. But what happens if the sun starts chasing a single planet? Everything falls apart. You are the sun. Stay in your center, shine for yourself, and let those who appreciate your light come closer. The moment you take charge of your story, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing and they start noticing. Your detachment speaks volumes. It says, I know my worth. I don't need to beg for a place in anyone's life. That kind of confidence is magnetic. Think about a diamond. It doesn't chase anyone. It just exists, rare and valuable, and the world comes to it. You are that diamond. Start living like it. This isn't about arrogance. It's about self-respect. It's about knowing that your energy, your time, and your love are gifts, not obligations. Anyone who wants to be part of your life has to rise to meet you. Those who don't, let them go. Your story doesn't need everyone. It just needs the right ones. Remember this. Your worth isn't tied to how others see you. It's tied to how you see yourself. Stop giving away the power to define your value. It belongs to you and you alone. So here's what you do next. Live your life on your terms. Detach from anyone who doesn't see your worth. Protect your peace. Make them earn their place in your story. And don't wait for someone to give you permission to live fully. That permission is already yours. If this resonates with you, take action. Reclaim your power. Share this message with someone who needs to hear it and subscribe to stay on this journey of transformation. Your story is yours to write, and it's only just beginning. This is your moment. You are the hero. Start a new chapter and build the life you deserve. The world is waiting to see what you create. Let them watch, let them rise, because trust me, they'll notice. They always do.